The Atacama Fragments. By Rita Weston. Copyright 2025 by Rita Weston. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be used or reproduced in any form whatsoever without written permission except in the case of brief quotations in critical articles or reviews. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, businesses, organizations, places, events, and incidents either are the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental. Printed in the United Kingdom. For more information, or to book an event, contact anna.monroy@rocketmail.com. https //Sapraman hub edc base app home. Book design by Kindlepreneur. Cover design by canva.com. ISBN, paperback, 9798272880659. First edition, November 2025. Contents. 1. Arrival in the desert. 2. The base. 3. Strange readings. 4. Desert storms. 5. The fire in the sky. 6. Expedition begins. 7. The crater. 8. First analysis. 9. Anomalies multiply. 10. Tensions at the base. To the dreamers. For those who still look up and believe that silence is only the universe waiting to be heard. 1. Arrival in the desert. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, third person limited. The plane's wheels hit the tarmac at Calama with a bone-shaking jolt. Dr. Alexandra Morgan gripped the armrest, steadying herself as the engines roared into reverse thrust. She exhaled slowly, unclenching her hands. She wasn't a nervous flyer, not exactly, but this trip felt different. The stakes were higher, the destination more remote, the project more ambitious than anything she had ever attempted. From the window, she caught her first glimpse of northern Chile's barren plateau. The light was stark, the land vast and mineral red, broken only by the jagged teeth of distant mountains. Nothing about the desert welcomed life. Yet somewhere out there, amid the salt and stone, the most advanced astronomical observatory on Earth pointed its gleaming eyes toward the heavens. Alex pulled her satchel onto her lap as the plane slowed. Inside it, her notebooks and laptop were safe, her whole life's work pressed between pages and code. Trajectory equations for near-Earth objects. Observational data on asteroids that behaved strangely, almost too strangely. That was why she'd been invited. Why she was here. At baggage claim, her 2 cases trundled off the belt, both marked with government tags. She hauled them onto a cart and navigated toward the exit. A driver stood waiting with a placard, DRA. Morgan. Bienvenida a Chile, he said, smiling as he took her cases. His English carried the round warmth of Spanish. Long trip. From Houston, she said, returning the smile. Feels longer. The driver chuckled. It always does. The van rattled out of Calama and into the wilderness. Civilization thinned quickly, first buildings, then power lines, then even the scrub vegetation surrendered. The land became endless, ochre sand, chalk-white salt flats, and hills the color of rust. Alex pressed her forehead lightly against the glass. The desert looked like another planet. Heat shimmered in translucent waves. The silence seemed absolute, as though sound itself had been exiled. The driver gestured with his chin toward the horizon. That is where you go. The observatorio. At first she thought he was joking. She saw nothing but glare. Then, as the van dipped and curved along the gravel road, white specks began to appear in the distance. Slowly they grew into shapes, great metal dishes, gleaming domes, tall masts piercing the sky. They looked like a colony left behind by explorers on Mars. Alex's chest tightened. She was really here. First time in Atacama? The driver asked. Yes, she said. First time anywhere this dry. He laughed. You will drink water until you hate it. And then drink more. His tone softened. But you will never see a sky like this anywhere else. The desert hides nothing. Even the universe itself comes closer here. Alex smiled faintly. That's what I'm counting on. The van pulled into the compound at last, tires crunching over packed gravel. The base sprawled across the plateau, modular steel and concrete buildings huddled against the wind, solar panels glittering in harsh sunlight. Beyond, the telescope array dominated the landscape. Dozens of dishes turned skyward, perfectly white against the burnt earth. Alex climbed out, pulling her cases behind her. The air hit her lungs like sandpaper. Thin. Dry. Her lips instantly cracked at the corners. Dr. Morgan? She turned. A woman in a khaki utility jacket strode toward her, braid swinging over one shoulder, boots scuffing against gravel. She was striking in her confidence, eyes sharp, posture practical. "I'm Camila Torres," she said, extending her hand. "Telescope engineer. Welcome to the Atacama." Alex clasped it. The handshake was firm, calloused. "Thank you. I'm glad to finally be here." Camila's mouth curved into a smirk. "Give it a few days. The desert will test you. Your skin will dry, your computer will choke on dust, and you'll curse the thin air." Her expression softened. "But then the sun sets, and you'll remember why it's all worth it." "I'll hold on to that," Alex said with a laugh. Camila nodded toward the buildings. "Come. I'll show you around." Inside, the base smelled faintly of recycled air and machine oil. White-painted walls, bright lighting, the steady hum of ventilation. "This wing," Camila said, leading her down a corridor, "is living quarters. Mess hall at the end. Labs are on the far side. Communications hub is secure, you'll get access codes in the morning." They passed several scientists in white coats, some nodding curtly, others smiling in greeting. Camila rattled off names as they went. Dr. Klaus Meyer, German radio astronomer, tall and spare as his accent. Dr. Aiko Tanaka, cosmic ray physicist from Japan, quiet but razor sharp. Maya O'Connor, Canadian systems analyst, broad grin, easy laugh. "The rest you'll meet at dinner," Camila said. "Don't worry, you'll forget their names by tomorrow." They reached a narrow door. Camila keyed it open. Inside was a compact but neat room, bed, desk, wardrobe, and a small window that looked directly onto the barren expanse. Mountains rose on the horizon like jagged shadows. "This is yours," Camila said. "Dinner at 1900. Try not to fall asleep before then, the jet lag's worse at altitude." Alex set her cases down, turning to her guide. "Thank you, Camila. For everything." Camila gave a casual shrug but her eyes warmed. "We all survive this place together. That's the rule." She tipped her chin and left. Alex unpacked methodically. Clothes into drawers. Toiletries into the bathroom. Laptop onto the desk. At the bottom of her bag lay her leather-bound journal. She opened it, fingers tracing the first line she had scrawled years ago. "If the stars hold answers, then we must listen." The words steadied her. At 1900, she joined the mess hall. The room buzzed with low voices, clatter of cutlery, aroma of spiced rice and roasted chicken. Camila waved her over. "Dr. Morgan, sit. Meet the others." Introductions blurred together: French astrophysicist, Brazilian geologist, South African engineer. Each person carried their own stories, accents, quirks. Some greeted her warmly, others with cautious curiosity. Maya O'Connor leaned across the table. "So, Alex, asteroids, right? Rocks that want to kill us all?" Alex smiled. "Something like that. Except most don't want to kill us. They just don't care if they do." Laughter rippled through the group. Even Klaus Meyer cracked a smile. For the first time since boarding the plane, Alex felt a little lighter. After dinner, she wandered outside. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the desert bathed in bruised purples and molten gold. Slowly, the first stars emerged, then more, and more, until the entire sky burned with light. She stopped dead. Billions of stars blazed overhead, crisp as glass. The Milky Way arced like a silver river. Starlight alone cast faint shadows across the sand. Her breath caught. She had studied stars her whole life, charts, data, simulations. But this was different. It was alive. Immediate. The gravel crunched behind her. Camila approached, hands shoved into her jacket pockets. "Overwhelming, isn't it?" she said softly. Alex nodded. "It's more than overwhelming. It's humbling." Camila tilted her head back. "My father used to say the stars could swallow us whole if we stared too long. When I was little, I believed him." Alex smiled faintly. Maybe he was right. For a long moment, they stood together in silence. Two figures dwarfed by the cosmos. And yet, as Alex gazed upward, unease prickled at the edge of her awe. Not just wonder. Something else. Like eyes staring back. The desert wind whispered over the sand. The stars shimmered, brilliant, cold, and watching. 2. The base. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, 3rd Person Limited. The alarm on her watch buzzed softly at 6. Alex opened her eyes to find her room bathed in pale, colorless light seeping through the blinds. For a moment she lay still, listening. No birds, no traffic, no hum of city life, only the faint hiss of the ventilation unit and the occasional creak of the building as the desert wind shifted outside. The silence of the Atacama was unlike any she had known. It pressed against her ears until her own breathing felt too loud. Her lips were cracked when she swung her legs out of bed. She rubbed them absently, reminding herself to keep the water bottle close. The air was so thin and dry it stole moisture faster than she could replace it. In the bathroom, the mirror reflected a woman with pale skin flushed from altitude, hair still mussed from travel, eyes sharp despite the fatigue. "You asked for this," she reminded herself, splashing water over her face. "You wanted the desert. The work. The sky." By the time she dressed and stepped into the corridor, the base was already awake. The mess hall buzzed with quiet activity. Scientists hunched over trays of instant coffee and toast, some scrolling through laptops, others speaking in low bursts of German, Spanish, Japanese, or English. The smell of powdered eggs and reheated bread clung faintly to the air. Camila sat near the door, mug in hand, braid swinging over her shoulder. She lifted her chin in greeting. "Buenos dias, doctora." "Morning," Alex replied, sliding into the seat across from her with a steaming cup of coffee. The first sip burned her tongue, bitter and thin, but it was enough. "You survived your first night," Camila said. "Mostly." Alex grimaced. "The air's so dry I feel like I swallowed sand." "That's normal." Camila smirked. "By the end of the week you won't even notice. Or you'll notice and just stop caring." Alex laughed softly, the sound surprising in the quiet room. She glanced around at the others. Some looked up briefly, offering polite nods, but most were already buried in their routines. She felt like an intruder at a well-oiled machine. "You'll get used to them too," Camila said, following her gaze. "We all started as strangers. Now we argue like family." Alex's stomach tightened with both anticipation and nerves. She wanted to belong, but belonging here meant proving herself, proving her data mattered. By mid-morning, she found herself in the rover beside Camila, rattling down a gravel track toward the telescope array. The sun was brutal, beating against the windshield in white-hot waves. Dust spiraled in the vehicle's wake, vanishing into the vastness. And then the array came into view. Dozens of giant dishes stood in perfect alignment, white steel gleaming against the red earth. Their curved faces tilted skyward in silent unison, as though listening for whispers from the stars. They dwarfed her imagination, larger than any photograph had suggested. Alex's breath caught. "They're beautiful." Camila's grin was full of pride. "They're stubborn, that's what they are. Half the time I spend fixing jammed gears or clearing dust out of bearings. Beautiful, yes. Cooperative, never." They parked near the control building and stepped into the shadow of one of the colossal dishes. Its metal surface loomed above them, pitted faintly from grit carried by the wind. "You know," Camila said, craning her neck, "when I was a kid, I used to think they looked like flowers. Mechanical flowers, always turning their heads to follow the light. Only here, they follow darkness." Alex smiled, tucking the image away. Inside the control building, the shift from blazing heat to cool dimness made her shiver. Rows of consoles glowed softly, monitors flickering with streams of data. Scientists leaned over keyboards, murmuring into headsets. "This is where you'll live," Camila said, gesturing broadly. "Welcome to the nerve center." Alex set her bag on the workstation she'd been assigned. Screens lit up with numerical readouts, orbital charts, raw signal data. For a moment she simply stood there, absorbing the magnitude of it all, the heartbeat of the universe translated into numbers and light. "Dr. Morgan?" A voice cut through her awe. She turned to see a tall man with iron-gray hair and sharp glasses regarding her with faint skepticism. "Klaus Meyer. Radio astronomy. I've read your papers." His tone suggested more criticism than praise. Alex extended her hand. "A pleasure to meet you." He shook it briefly, already turning back to his screen. "Asteroids," he muttered, almost dismissive. "Rocks. Rocks that can end civilizations," Alex said evenly. Klaus didn't respond. Behind him, a woman with cropped hair and an easy smile offered Alex a sympathetic look. "Don't mind him. He thinks anything smaller than a star isn't worth his time." She extended a hand. "Maya O'Connor. Systems analysis. Welcome aboard." "Thank you," Alex said warmly, grateful. Nearby, a petite Japanese woman inclined her head politely. "Tanaka Aiko. Cosmic rays." Her English was precise, clipped. Alex nodded in return, filing the names away. The team was more diverse than she had imagined, their accents weaving into a strange music. She sat at her station, fingers brushing the keyboard. The hum of machinery surrounded her. For the first time, she felt the weight of the responsibility settle in. This wasn't just theory anymore. She was plugged directly into the machinery of discovery. The hours passed in concentration. Alex combed through incoming data, cross-referencing asteroid positions with orbital predictions. Her equations streamed across the screen, neat and familiar, yet the desert's silence pressed against her mind even here, in the humming control room. Maya leaned over. "So you're the rock doctor, huh?" Alex glanced up, smiling faintly. "Astrophysicist." "Right. Rock doctor sounds cooler though." Maya grinned. "You'll fit in fine." Across the room, Camila tinkered with a control panel, translating Alex's jargon into hardware checks and recalibrations. Their worlds overlapped at odd angles, one rooted in math, the other in machines. Alex found it strangely reassuring, two halves of the same puzzle. But then her breath caught. On her screen, a trajectory line blinked red. One of the asteroids she had tracked from the US, catalog number 2139QX, wasn't where it should be. Its predicted position diverged wildly from the new readings. It hadn't just shifted. It had vanished. Her pulse quickened. She double-checked coordinates, reran calculations, adjusted for observational error. Still wrong. The rock was gone. She hesitated, lips pressing into a line. Reporting it now would make her look overeager, even paranoid. Better to check again tomorrow. Still, unease prickled at the back of her mind. Lunch in the mess hall was louder than breakfast, the room filled with clatter and overlapping voices. Trays carried steaming rice, roasted chicken, and bowls of lentil stew. Alex sat with Camila and Maya, listening as the conversation ebbed around her. Klaus sat at the next table, launching into a long explanation of pulsar mapping. "So," Maya said, turning to Alex, "what brings you out here?" "Apart from the glamour of powdered eggs and thin air. Near-Earth object tracking," Alex said, setting down her fork. "Some asteroids aren't behaving as predicted. Their orbits are changing in ways that don't fit the models." Camila raised an eyebrow. "And you think you'll find answers here?" "I think the telescopes here are the best chance we have to watch closely enough," Alex replied. Klaus's voice drifted across the tables. "We are here to study stars, not chase space rubble." The word stung, but Alex forced her tone steady. "Sometimes rubble tells us more about the universe than the brightest stars." Camila smirked at that, but said nothing. By evening, exhaustion pulled at her bones. Back in her quarters, Alex opened her journal and wrote. Day 1. The desert is more alien than I imagined. The team, fragmented, brilliant, competitive. Already a pattern emerging, respect will have to be earned. Noticed anomaly in asteroid 2139 QX. Must recheck. If the data holds. Something's wrong out there. She closed the book and stepped outside. The sun had set, leaving the desert in shadow. Overhead, the stars unfurled again, endless and sharp. She raised her tablet, checked the coordinates of 2139 QX. It should have been visible. But the sky above her was empty where it should have glimmered. The desert wind whispered over her shoulders. For the first time, she felt not just awe, but unease. 3. Strange readings. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, third person limited. The thin air pressed against her lungs, forcing her awake again and again. Alex rolled onto her side, staring at the faint glow of her digital watch, 2:14. She had been in the Atacama less than 48 hours, and already her body was rebelling. Headaches from altitude. Cracked lips. Restless sleep. She sat up, rubbed her eyes, and reached for the water bottle on her nightstand. The plastic crinkled as she squeezed the last few drops into her mouth. Even the water tasted metallic here. Her laptop sat closed on the desk. For a long moment she resisted. Sleep, Alex. Sleep while you can. But her mind wouldn't let go. The anomaly gnawed at her like grit in a shoe. With a sigh, she padded barefoot to the desk, flipped the lid, and powered it up. The glow bathed her room in cold blue light. Asteroid 2139 QX. She pulled the file. Last week, it had been in a stable, predictable orbit. She had run the numbers herself. But the data logged yesterday, transmitted from the array here in Chile, placed it nowhere near where it should be. She checked again. Reran the equations. Factored in gravitational perturbations, measurement errors, even atmospheric distortion. Still wrong. Her pen scratched across her leather-bound journal. Second confirmation needed. Could be error in Chilean calibration. Do not report until verified. She leaned back, rubbing her temples. The desert outside was silent, the stars so bright she didn't need a lamp. She pulled the blinds slightly open. The Milky Way spilled across the sky like silver smoke. Beautiful. Terrifying. Watching her back. At dawn, she made her way to the control room. The corridors were quiet, most of the base still half asleep. She liked it this way, the hum of machines louder than footsteps, the smell of coffee just beginning to drift through the vents. Her workstation blinked awake under her fingers. She pulled down fresh telemetry, letting the numbers flood across the screen. Her breath caught. Not one anomaly. 2. Asteroid 2139 QX remained absent, but another, 3491 TS, was off by a fraction of a degree. Small enough to dismiss, but she knew better. Orbital mechanics didn't make mistakes. Already working? She turned to find Camila entering, hair damp from a quick shower, eyes puffy from sleep. She carried a mug the size of a soup bowl. Couldn't sleep, Alex admitted. Altitude. Tell me about it. Camila sipped her coffee, then frowned at the screens. Those look worrying. Alex hesitated. Asteroid data. 2 anomalies now. Could be calibration errors. Camila leaned on the back of her chair. Or not. Alex glanced at her, surprised. Most people outside her field brushed off orbital shifts as trivial. Camila didn't understand the equations, but she trusted the gut feeling behind Alex's voice. That mattered. Camila frowned, setting her mug down. Funny you say calibration. The arrays were glitching last night. Static in the signal. Dust? Alex asked. Not dust. Camila shook her head. Not wind, not weather. A pulse. Repeating interference like someone tapping the line. Alex's stomach tightened. You've seen this before? Not like this. Camila's eyes narrowed. It looked patterned. The word patterned lodged itself in Alex's chest. Her anomalies, Camila's interference, 2 halves of a puzzle she wasn't ready to solve. By 8, the control room was buzzing. Klaus Meyer stood at the central console, adjusting his glasses as he reviewed data streams. The daily briefing began in clipped English, drifting into German when his irritation flared. "Calibration must improve," he said. "We lost 2 hours of signal overnight. Unacceptable." Camila muttered under her breath in Spanish. Alex bit her tongue. When the floor opened for updates, she hesitated, then forced herself to speak. "I've noticed irregularities in asteroid data. 2139 QX is off course. Possibly fragmented." Klaus turned sharply, glasses flashing. "Asteroids wander. You think this is unusual? Rocks shift. That is all." "It's not just a shift," Alex said, heat rising in her cheeks. "It's gone. Off prediction entirely." Klaus's lips thinned. "Then your predictions are wrong." A small cough drew her attention. Maya O'Connor leaned forward from her console, eyebrows raised. "Wait. Didn't I see something odd in last night's logs? A blip in the system?" Klaus shot her a warning glare, but Maya shrugged. "I'll double-check." The briefing moved on. Alex sat stiff, hands clenched under the desk. Later, Camila dragged her outside, insisting she needed air. They crossed the gravel lot, boots crunching, until the shadow of one of the massive dishes loomed over them. "Come on," Camila said, gesturing at the maintenance ladder. Alex blinked. "Up there. Unless you're scared of heights." Camila smirked, already climbing. Grumbling, Alex followed. The rungs burned hot under her hands, the desert wind sharp against her face. When she reached the top, she froze. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, mountains jagged against the sky. The array stood like an army of silent giants, white faces turned upward. "It's incredible," Alex whispered. Camila crouched beside a gearbox, pulling tools from her belt. "They look calm, don't they? But inside, they groan like old men. Bearings stick, electronics fry, gears seize. Machines hate the desert. Yet you keep them alive," Alex said. Camila grinned. "Somebody has to." Alex smiled back, unexpectedly warmed. Camila's world was bolts and grease, hers was numbers and light, yet somehow they fit together. Back at her station, Alex pulled fresh data again. Her calculations chilled her blood. 2139 QX hadn't simply vanished. Its trajectory, if accurate, angled closer to Earth than ever before. If it hadn't burned up in atmosphere, it could have fragmented nearby. Her heart thudded. This wasn't just academic anymore. Something real, tangible, possibly dangerous was happening. She chewed her lip, resisting the urge to shout across the room. Better to be sure first. That evening, she convinced Camila to join her outside with a portable telescope. "You're serious," Camila muttered, lugging the tripod across the sand. "Deadly serious," Alex said, aligning coordinates. "It should be right there." They scanned. Nothing. Then, just as Camila lowered the eyepiece, a faint streak cut across the sky, fast, silent, gone in an instant. "Meteor?" Camila asked. Alex's skin prickled. "Maybe. But meteors don't usually come from that vector." Camila studied her face. "You think it's your missing rock?" "I think." Alex swallowed. "I think something isn't adding up." Back in her quarters, Alex scribbled in her journal. 2 anomalies. Interference. Possible fragmentation. Why here? Why now? She set the pen down, staring out the window at the desert horizon. The stars blazed overhead, brilliant and cold. "The universe doesn't make mistakes," she whispered. "But something out there is changing the rules." 4. Desert storms. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, 3rd Person Limited. The day began deceptively quiet. Alex woke to pale sunlight filtering across the desert, the mountains etched in perfect clarity against a cobalt sky. From her window the air looked still, peaceful, endless. At breakfast, Maya teased her about looking half asleep. Klaus grumbled about calibration again. Camila sat opposite, eating toast slowly, her braid flecked with windblown dust. "You'll learn to read the desert," Camila said, gesturing with her mug. "Blue sky doesn't mean safety. Out here, the weather changes faster than you think." Alex raised a brow. That sounded like a warning. Camila smirked. It was. By mid-morning, the air grew restless. A faint shimmer blurred the horizon. The dishes of the array groaned, pivoting sluggishly against invisible pressure. Alex stood with Camila outside the control building. The wind whipped strands of hair into her face, carrying fine grit that stung her lips. Storm? Alex asked. Camila scanned the horizon. Yes. And a bad one. They hurried back inside as alarms pinged. Dust levels rising. Visibility dropping. The storm was sweeping fast across the plateau. The storm hit like a wall. Sand roared against the outer walls, a sound like endless static. The sky turned the color of rust, drowning the base in a red haze. Lights flickered as the generators strained. Inside, the team gathered in the mess hall. Klaus muttered irritably about lost observation time. Maya joked about being trapped together like schoolchildren. Alex sat near the window, though there was nothing to see but swirling sand. The storm pressed against the glass, rattling it like a fist. Camila dropped into the chair beside her, tossing a packet of crackers onto the table. Lunch, she said dryly. Appetizing, Alex replied. Get used to it. With work suspended, the team drifted into conversation. Maya told a story about a telescope project in Canada that froze solid during a blizzard. Aiko, in her soft, clipped voice, described cosmic ray anomalies that had puzzled Tokyo labs for years. When it was Camila's turn, she leaned back, voice low but steady. My father brought me here when I was 10. Said the stars were the desert's gift. I didn't understand. I thought it was empty, dead. But when you see the sky at night. Her gaze drifted toward the storm-lashed window. You realize it's not empty at all. It's too full. Alex felt the truth of that settle inside her. Hours later, when the storm still hadn't lifted, Camila and Alex slipped into the control room. Screens glitched with static. Some telescopes had gone offline entirely. Camila cursed softly in Spanish. Half the array is blind. Alex frowned at her data. Not just blind, corrupted. The asteroid logs were scrambled, numbers flickering nonsensically. But within the noise she caught something, tiny, repeating pulses. Do you see that? She whispered. Camila leaned close, brows drawn. Not storm interference. That's something else. A shiver crawled down Alex's spine. When Alex raised it during the evening debrief, Klaus waved a hand. Storm static. Nothing more. But the pattern, Alex began. Coincidence, Klaus snapped. You chase ghosts. Wait until the storm clears. Frustration burned in her chest. Camila shot her a look that said don't waste your breath. That night, the base rattled under the storm's assault. Alex lay awake, listening to the sand scrape like claws across metal walls. She rose, wrapped in her jacket, and stepped into the corridor. Lights flickered. The air smelled faintly of ozone. At the far end, Camila leaned against the window, arms folded. Can't sleep either? No, Alex admitted. Feels like the desert's trying to bury us. Camila's expression softened. It always feels like that the first time. They stood together in silence, two figures small against the storm's fury. And deep inside, Alex couldn't shake the thought. The storm was cover. Behind its roar, something else was whispering through the instruments. 5. The Fire in the Sky. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, 3rd Person Limited. The storm lifted by dawn. Alex woke to an eerie stillness, the kind that felt more oppressive than the howling winds of the night before. When she stepped outside, the base looked dusted in rust. Sand-coated solar panels and windows. The telescopes loomed in silence, their white faces dulled by grit. Camila was already on a ladder, brushing sand from a sensor. Morning, Doctora. Welcome to the aftermath. Alex tilted her head back, scanning the sky. After 2 days of dust, it was impossibly blue again, cloudless and vast. Too vast. In the control room, the team worked like a hive. Camila barked instructions in Spanish to the engineers. Maya tapped furiously at her console, rerouting corrupted logs. Klaus paced, muttering about wasted observation time. Alex focused on her asteroid data. Some files were salvageable, but the interference remained, a faint, repeating signal embedded in the noise. She leaned closer, frowning. It almost looked like a heartbeat. Lost in thought? Maya asked, sliding into the seat beside her. Maybe. Alex hesitated. Have you ever seen data look intentional? Maya raised a brow. Like aliens? She smirked. Don't let Klaus hear you say that. He'll have an aneurysm. Alex forced a smile, but unease prickled her skin. That evening, as the team dispersed for dinner, Alex lingered outside. The desert had shaken off its storm scars, settling into silence. The stars were just beginning to sharpen overhead. She was halfway to the mess hall when she saw it. A streak of light cut across the sky, brilliant, blazing, impossibly fast. For a heartbeat she thought it was another meteor, but it was too bright, too close. The ground vibrated faintly beneath her boots. Camila! She shouted, pointing upward. Doors burst open. Scientists spilled outside, craning their necks as the sky lit with fire. The streak split, fragments glowing like embers trailing smoke. And then, impact. Far beyond the horizon, a dull thunder rolled across the desert. A second later, a shockwave rattled through the base, windows shivering in their frames. The streak was gone, leaving only silence. Chaos erupted. Klaus barked orders. Engineers scrambled to secure instruments. Alarms flickered as the control room lit with seismic alerts. Alex's heart pounded. She clutched her satchel, mind racing. That trajectory, it matched. It has to be 2139 QX. Maya caught her arm. That wasn't a meteor shower. That was a crash. Camila's face was pale but determined. We'll take the rover tomorrow. If it hit within range, we'll find it. Klaus overheard, shaking his head. Impossible. Too dangerous. The desert swallows things. Leave it. But Alex couldn't. Her gut screamed that this was the anomaly she'd been chasing. The base settled into tense silence. Alex returned to her quarters but couldn't sleep. She paced, checked her calculations again. Trajectory consistent. Object entered atmosphere at shallow angle. Survivable fragments likely. She stepped outside. The desert night wrapped around her, cool and vast. The stars glittered, but she barely noticed them. Her eyes were on the horizon where the streak had vanished. Camila joined her quietly. Still awake. Alex nodded. It wasn't random. It was my asteroid. I know it. Camila's jaw tightened. Then tomorrow we go find it. The desert wind whispered, carrying grit across their boots. The night felt heavy, charged, as if the earth itself had secrets it was waiting to reveal. Alex looked at Camila, then back at the stars. This is it, she whispered. The beginning. And somewhere far across the desert, smoke still curled above a crater carved by something that should never have been here. 6. Expedition begins. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, 3rd Person Limited. The morning began with arguments. We are not equipped for a field expedition, Klaus said, pacing in front of the briefing table. His voice was sharp, his German accent clipping every word. We should log the data, submit reports, and let the authorities handle it. Alex leaned forward, palms flat against the table. Authorities will take weeks, maybe months. By then, whatever's out there will be gone, or taken by someone else. We have to move now. Silence stretched across the room. The storm-dulled light poured through the window, turning the walls pale. Camila crossed her arms. She's right. The desert will hide the site if we don't act fast. Sand covers everything. Klaus scoffed, but the others shifted uneasily. Maya spoke up at last. If you go, you'll need at least one systems analyst. I'll volunteer. No, Klaus snapped. This is reckless. Camila met his glare coolly. Then stay here. 2 hours later, the rover sat loaded and ready. Supplies stacked in its rear compartment. Water, rations, field kits, spare batteries, and portable instruments. Camila checked every strap, every latch, her hands methodical and sure. Alex slipped her journal into her satchel, along with her laptop. The thought of leaving it behind made her chest tighten. If we find something, I'll need everything I have. Ever been in the desert outside the base? Camila asked, tossing her braid over her shoulder. Not yet. Camila smirked. Then prepare yourself. It doesn't forgive mistakes. The rover rolled away from the base, tires crunching over gravel. The observatory shrank behind them, the white dishes turning slowly like watchful eyes. Ahead stretched nothing but endless ochre plains, mountains jagged in the distance, sky a pitiless blue. The desert shimmered under the sun, heat waves rising like ghosts. Inside, the cabin hummed with vibration. Alex sat beside Camila, laptop balanced on her knees, while Maya manned the navigation console. We tracked the fireball's descent on seismic sensors, Maya explained. Impact should be roughly 70 kilometers northeast. 70 kilometers of this? Alex muttered, glancing at the horizon. Welcome to the Atacama, Camila said dryly. Hours passed. The rover rattled across salt flats, jolted over rocky ridges, and crawled up sandy inclines that threatened to swallow the wheels. Alex scribbled notes in her journal between bumps, recording coordinates, time, impressions. Sweat trickled down her back despite the thin, dry air. At one point, Camila slowed and pointed. See that? Alex squinted. The ground rippled with strange white crust, brittle as bone. Salt bed, Camila explained. Don't step on it. Looks solid, but it collapses like glass. Alex nodded, tucking the warning away. This desert isn't just vast. It's alive in its own way, waiting to swallow us whole. By midday, tempers frayed. This is insane, Maya muttered, wiping sweat from her forehead. We're chasing a hunch. Could have been just a meteor. Alex bristled. Meteors don't vanish from predicted orbits. This was my asteroid. Maya glanced at her, uncertainty flickering. You sound obsessed. Camila's hands tightened on the wheel. Better obsessed than blind. The silence after that was heavy. Alex turned to the window, forcing herself to breathe evenly. Still, the doubt gnawed. What if I'm wrong? What if I've dragged them into danger for nothing? The rover crested a ridge, and Alex's breath caught. Far ahead, the desert wasn't flat. A dark scar marred the ochre plain, stretching like a wound toward the horizon. Even from this distance, she could see the shimmer of blackened earth, the faint curl of smoke still rising. There, she whispered. Camila followed her gaze, eyes narrowing. Impact zone. Maya's fingers flew over the console. Seismic data matches. That's it. The rover roared down the slope, dust billowing in its wake. They stopped half a kilometer from the site, dust choking the air. The three women climbed out, pulling goggles over their eyes and masks over their faces. The crater yawned before them, vast and violent. Earth had been torn open, rocks blasted outward in jagged rings. The air smelled faintly scorched, metallic. Alex's pulse thundered. She scribbled notes, fingers trembling. This isn't just rock. Look at the burn pattern, it's too concentrated. Camila crouched, brushing a fragment of charred stone with her gloved hand. Her eyes widened. Not stone. Metal. She held it up. Even blackened, its surface gleamed faintly, edges too sharp, too deliberate. Alex stared. Her chest tightened. That's not natural. They moved carefully, scanning the crater. Amid the debris, more shards glimmered, silver, etched with faint ridges like veins. Some hummed softly when touched, as if holding a memory of heat. Maya knelt, her skepticism crumbling. This isn't meteorite. I've never seen anything like this. Alex crouched beside her, tracing a line on one shard. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. Deliberate. Her throat went dry. This was built. Camila looked at her sharply. Built by who? Alex couldn't answer. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the crater. The desert wind hissed through broken rock, carrying grit into their clothes. Alex slipped the smallest shard into a sample case, sealing it carefully. Her hands shook. Camila stood beside her, silent. Maya's eyes darted from the crater to the horizon, unease plain. Alex looked once more at the fragment in her hands. Cold. Alien. Impossible. And yet real. She whispered into the wind, so low only she could hear, "We're not alone." 7. The crater. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, Third Person Limited. The crater yawned before them, vast and silent. From the rim, it looked like a wound torn into the desert's skin, ragged edges of shattered rock falling inward toward a basin scorched black. Alex adjusted her goggles, the straps pulling against her temple. Her heart thudded so loudly she wondered if the others could hear it. "We need to go down," she said softly. Camila scanned the slope. "Careful. Loose rock. One wrong step and you'll slide the whole way." They began their descent. Boots crunched on sharp debris. Fine dust billowed with each step, coating their masks and lenses. The heat inside the crater seemed heavier, as if the air itself carried memory of fire. Alex's journal was clutched tight under her arm. Every instinct screamed to write, to document, but her hands were too busy keeping balance. When they reached the bottom, the silence was absolute. Even the desert wind seemed to avoid this place. Fragments littered the ground, metallic shards half buried in scorched sand, some as small as coins, others the size of briefcases. Each one gleamed faintly in the fading sun, unnaturally smooth where they weren't jagged. Camila crouched, running her glove across one. A faint hum thrummed against her palm. She jerked back. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Alex knelt beside her, pressing her own hand to the shard. The vibration was real, subtle but steady, like the echo of something alive. Maya hovered close, wide-eyed. "That's not normal." "No," Alex breathed. "It isn't." She moved from shard to shard, eyes narrowing. Most were cracked, edges sharp, surfaces scorched. But on one fragment, no bigger than her notebook, she saw something different. Lines. Faint, etched into the surface. At first glance they looked like fractures. But when she tilted it under the light, the lines curved deliberately, forming repeating arcs and junctions. Her pulse quickened. "Camila, look at this." Camila leaned close, squinting. "That's not random." Maya crouched, brushing dust away. "Could be structural." Alex shook her head slowly. "No. It's more. It looks like writing." The word hung heavy in the air. Back at the rover, the radio crackled with Klaus's voice, distorted by static. "Report status." Immediately. Camila rolled her eyes, but Maya lifted the handset. "We've located fragments. Definitely not meteorite. Possibly manufactured." There was a long pause. Then Klaus's voice snapped back, sharp with disbelief. "Impossible. Do not exaggerate findings. Return at once." Alex leaned closer to the radio. "We're bringing samples. You'll see for yourself." The silence that followed felt like disapproval made tangible. Camila set the radio down firmly. "He's not in charge out here. We are." Alex met her eyes, grateful. For the first time, she felt a line drawn, those who wanted to understand, and those who wanted to deny. As the sun lowered, they secured several fragments in sample cases. But Alex couldn't let go of the inscribed one. She held it longer than she should, running her gloved thumb across the lines. The grooves were shallow, precise, following no geometry she recognized. And yet, there was rhythm to it, a flow that tugged at her instincts. It didn't feel human. "Alex," Camila said gently, watching her. "Don't get lost in it." Alex forced herself to seal the shard into its case. Still, the pattern lingered in her mind's eye. Climbing out of the crater was harder than descending. Twice Alex slipped, knees striking sharp stone, but Camila's steady hand pulled her upright. When they reached the rover, dusk had painted the desert in bruised purple. The crater behind them looked darker now, as though swallowing the last light. Alex glanced back one final time. The fragments gleamed faintly, like stars fallen to earth. "We'll come back," she murmured. Camila heard her, but said nothing. On the drive back, The rover rattling over uneven ground, Alex opened her journal by the light of the dashboard. She sketched the lines she had seen on the shard, tracing them carefully from memory. Curves, arcs, junctions, patterns that felt less like damage and more like language. Her pen hovered over the page. She wrote one final note: not natural. Not random. Purposeful. The desert stretched endlessly beyond the windows, silent and vast. But in Alex's chest, the silence had broken. Something out there had spoken. And now she had to listen. 8. First analysis. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, Third Person Limited. At dusk, the rover rolled through the gates, dust caked thick across its panels. The base loomed ahead, its floodlights stark against the desert dark. The dishes of the array stood motionless in the distance, white shapes against bruised sky, like giants holding their breath. Klaus was waiting. He stood rigid in the courtyard, arms folded, glasses catching the light. His posture was sharp enough to cut glass, and the expression beneath those lenses promised nothing good. As soon as Alex climbed down, her boots crunching against gravel, he snapped, "You disobeyed direct instructions." Camila slammed the rover door hard enough to echo. "And we brought back proof." "You're welcome." Klaus's eyes flicked to the cases. His voice dripped with disdain. "Stones. That's all." Alex stepped forward, gripping the smallest case. Inside lay the shard etched with lines that had haunted her since she first touched it. Her voice came out calm, steadier than she felt. "Then you won't mind if we test them." For a long, charged moment, Klaus said nothing. The desert wind rattled against the floodlight posts. Then he turned on his heel. "Very well. Lab. Now." The laboratory was the cleanest place on base, sealed and humming with recycled air. Bright light gleamed on steel tables and glass cabinets, on racks of neatly labeled instruments. The scent of ozone clung faintly, mixed with cleaning solvent. They laid the cases out. Camila unsnapped one with deliberate precision and lifted a shard using insulated tongs. The piece caught the light-charred edges, but the surface gleamed unnaturally smooth beneath the scars. Maya leaned in, laptop open. "Densities off the charts," she murmured as her readings scrolled across the screen. "Stronger than titanium alloys. Stronger than anything I've logged." Aiko adjusted her glasses and bent over the microscope. Her voice, when it came, was quiet but certain. "Not natural. Too uniform." Alex's turn came. She slid her case open, heart quickening. The inscribed shard looked smaller under the microscope, but the grooves jumped into clarity, arcs and junctions etched with purpose. Her throat tightened. "These are deliberate," she whispered. "Inscribed." Klaus gave a sharp snort. "Stress fractures." Alex lifted her head, meeting his gaze. "No. This was built." For hours they worked, instruments clattering and humming. Magnetism, standard magnets bounced off, but when they ran controlled radio frequencies, the shards twitched faintly, as though listening. Conductivity, off the scale. Circuits overloaded when connected directly, forcing them to cut power to save the boards. Resonance. When placed on a vibration plate, one shard emitted a low harmonic tone. The sound was haunting, almost like a bell tolling in a cathedral buried deep underground. Camila leaned in, eyes wide. "That doesn't sound like coincidence." Maya tapped furiously at her laptop. "It's not noise. It's a repeating sequence. Look, patterned peaks, like a code." Klaus muttered in German, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Pattern does not mean language." Alex's pen flew across her journal. Pattern. Rhythm. Purpose. The debate flared hotter with each test. "We must report this immediately," Klaus said, voice sharp. "Send everything to Santiago. Government handling only." "No," Alex said, louder than she intended. Every head turned. She steadied herself. "If we do that, we'll lose it. We'll never see the truth. It will vanish into a vault." Aiko's soft voice cut through the tension. "She is correct. Governments bury what they cannot explain." Maya frowned, torn. "So what? We just keep this secret. Pretend it's safe." "Nothing about this is safe," Camila said quietly, her voice carrying more weight than volume. The room went silent, the shards humming faintly in the background as though eavesdropping. Eventually, the group dispersed. Alex and Camila remained, shoulders heavy with exhaustion but unwilling to leave the shards unattended. Together, they placed each fragment into the containment safe, a steel vault lined with magnetic locking coils, secured by triple-coded entries. The inscribed shard went last. Alex hesitated as she set it onto the padded foam. A vibration thrummed up her wrist, subtle yet undeniable. Her breath caught, fingers trembling as she withdrew. Camila noticed. "You're pale. You need rest." Alex shook her head. "I don't think I could sleep if I tried." Still, the safe sealed with a hiss, heavy bolts sliding into place. The hum of the fragments dulled, but it didn't vanish. Sleep was impossible. By midnight, Alex found herself back in the lab, alone. The lights glared too brightly, but the silence felt heavier than darkness. She keyed the code, hands shaking, and withdrew the inscribed shard once more. Under the magnifier, the grooves pulled her in, arcs like orbital paths, junctions like stars. She opened her laptop, overlaying images. Star maps. Constellations. Asteroid belts. Her heart pounded as she aligned one set of arcs. It matched. Not perfectly, but close enough, an orbital trajectory intersecting Earth's vicinity. Her pen raced across her journal, not static. Predictive. Warning. The thought chilled her more than the desert night ever could. On her way back to her quarters, she passed the comms hub. Light glowed beneath the door. Curious, she stepped closer. Through the narrow window she glimpsed Klaus, headset on, speaking rapid German into the mic. His face was tense, his posture sharp. She couldn't catch the words, but his secrecy screamed louder than language. When he turned and saw her, he froze. "You should not be here. What are you transmitting?" "Routine status report," he said curtly. His eyes slid away. Alex said nothing more, but suspicion burned in her chest. Later, over stale coffee, Maya leaned in. "You think he's reporting us? Wouldn't be the first time. Governments always want control." Alex clenched her jaw. "Then we have to learn more before they take it away." The next evening, the entire team gathered again in the lab. "Klaus, we must send them out. If we mishandle this, it will be catastrophic. Alex, if we hand them over, the discovery disappears. Buried. Forgotten. Maya, but what if keeping them here makes it worse? Camila, ignorance is worse. Pretending we didn't find this, that's the danger." Finally Aiko spoke, eyes on the shard. "Cosmic ray anomalies increased since fragments arrived. They are active. Not coincidence." Silence followed, broken only by the low hum of machinery. The team was divided. Trust fractured like glass under pressure. They resumed testing, cautiously, as though the shards could overhear. Then it happened. The inscribed shard pulsed, a low harmonic tone that made every console vibrate. The lights flickered, once, twice, plunging the lab into momentary shadow before returning. On the screens, waveforms scrambled. 4-5 long seconds, everything filled with static. Alex leaned closer, heart pounding. The pulse rose and fell in rhythm, not random, structured, like syllables spoken in an alien tongue. She whispered, "It's speaking." Klaus slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. It is noise. Nothing more." But no one believed him now. Late that night, Alex sat alone in her quarters, journal open on her knees. Her notes filled pages. Pattern. Predictive. Active. Beacon. The lights flickered once more, just a quick stutter. She checked her watch, exactly the same interval she had logged earlier. Her chest tightened. She stepped outside, the desert wrapping around her in silent darkness. The stars were mercilessly bright, the air still as glass. "What if we didn't just find them?" she whispered. "What if they wanted us to?" The desert wind stirred faintly, as though shifting to listen. 9. Anomalies multiply. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, 3rd Person Limited. Alex lay awake, the hum of the fragment still reverberating in her mind. Every time she closed her eyes she saw the grooves, etched arcs crossing like constellations. Each line seemed to tug at her, demanding interpretation. At 3:17 a.m., she gave up. She slipped from bed, pulled on her jacket, and padded quietly through the corridor. The base slept, lights dimmed to half power, the silence broken only by the hiss of air circulation. The control room greeted her with cold blue light. Screens glowed, data streams pulsed. She dropped into her chair, rubbing her eyes as she pulled up the asteroid tracking logs. Her chest tightened. A red flag blinked at the edge of the screen. Another anomaly. A third asteroid had slipped out of prediction. Its orbit wasn't just off, it had shifted abruptly, as though nudged by some invisible hand. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling calculations, double-checking. She whispered to herself, "No. This isn't possible." The desert outside was silent, but Alex felt like the universe itself was shifting under her feet. By sunrise, Camila appeared in the doorway, hair still damp from a quick shower, clutching her oversized mug of coffee. "You're worse than me," she teased, sliding into the seat beside Alex. "What time did you even stop?" "Didn't," Alex muttered, eyes on the screen. "Look." Camila leaned over. The chart displayed 3 highlighted paths, each deviating sharply from predictions. Camila frowned. "That's not weather. Not dust. Not calibration." "No," Alex said. "It's real. Something's moving them." Camila set down her coffee. "You're saying something's pushing asteroids off track?" "I don't know," Alex admitted, voice low. "But 3 in 1 week isn't random." Camila stared at her for a long moment. "And you think it's connected to the fragments?" Alex didn't answer. She didn't have to. Later that morning, while the team gathered for routine calibration, Camila cursed under her breath. Static again. On her screen, the waveforms fuzzed into erratic pulses. Between the noise, Alex saw it, regular peaks, like a heartbeat. "That's not storm interference," Alex whispered. Camila gave a sharp nod. "It's too regular. It's a signal." Alex leaned closer, her skin prickling. The pattern echoed the fragment's pulse. It was as though the shard in the safe and the stars above were breathing in rhythm. Her pen scratched across her journal. Anomalies. Pulses. Synchronization. Klaus entered the control room mid-morning, crisp and irritable as ever. "Calibration first," he barked. "Focus on proper observation." Alex turned in her chair. "We need to discuss this. 3 anomalies in a week. That's not coincidence." Klaus's lips thinned. "Asteroids drift. Your obsession with rocks is clouding your judgment." Maya raised a hand timidly. "Actually, I saw the same deviations in last night's data. I thought it was a logging error, but, error?" Klaus snapped. "Exactly. Stop chasing phantoms." Anger burned in Alex's chest. "It's not phantoms. It's happening. And you're ignoring it." The room fell silent. Klaus adjusted his glasses and said coldly, "Until proof exists, this conversation is over." But Alex could feel the proof vibrating through her bones. In the mess hall, the tension lingered. Scientists sat in clusters, voices low, forks clinking against metal trays. Alex sat with Camila and Maya. She pushed her food around, appetite gone. Maya sighed. "He doesn't want to hear it. I don't know if it's pride or fear, but..." She trailed off. Camila snorted. "Both." She leaned toward Alex. "You're not wrong. He just doesn't want to admit you're right." Alex shook her head. "Doesn't matter what he believes. The data doesn't care." Her voice trembled, and she hated that it did. She clenched her hands under the table, steadying herself. Across the room, Klaus ate alone, his shoulders rigid. The base had begun to split in 2, those who wanted to dismiss, and those who wanted to know. That evening, Alex remained in the control room long after the others had left. The desert outside was black, the stars mercilessly sharp. She pulled the inscribed shard from the safe, setting it beside her keyboard. Its grooves caught the monitor light, shadows tracing the arcs. She couldn't help herself, She reached out, running her gloved fingertip along one etched line. The shard hummed faintly, in time with the pulses on her screen. Her breath caught. It's connected. She leaned back, staring at the screen. Another deviation blinked red. A fourth asteroid. The hum in her ears deepened. For a moment she thought she heard it, not just vibration, but tone. Words half-formed, syllables in a language just beyond understanding. She whispered, "You're speaking, aren't you?" The desert wind rattled faintly against the windows, as though answering. Footsteps startled her. Camila entered quietly, carrying her jacket, her expression half exasperation, half worry. "You're still here?" "Another anomaly," Alex said, gesturing at the screen. "They're multiplying." Camila studied her face. "You haven't slept." "I can't. Not now. It's happening, Camila. Something's happening out there, and it's tied to this." Alex tapped the shard. Camila's eyes softened. "I don't doubt you. But you're going to break if you don't rest." Alex looked away. "I don't have time to rest." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Camila said quietly, "Then I'll stay up with you." The two women sat side by side in the quiet control room, the hum of machines and the faint pulse of the shard filling the silence. Outside, the desert stretched black and endless, stars bright as knives. Alex stared at the glowing data points. 4 anomalies now. Tomorrow, maybe 5. Her pen scrawled across the page. They're not watching. They're guiding. She felt it in her bones. This wasn't random. It was deliberate. And for the first time, she wondered if the fragments weren't just messages left behind. Maybe they were alive. 10. Tensions at the base. POV, Dr. Alex Morgan, 3rd Person Limited. The day began with static. Alex startled awake in the control room, cheek pressed to her open journal, the pen still clutched between cramped fingers. Her neck ached from the awkward angle. The monitors around her hissed and flickered, clean data streams replaced by chaotic snow. She blinked blearily, rubbing grit from her eyes. The air was cold, the lights overhead buzzing faintly like a trapped insect. She pushed upright, rolling her shoulders until they popped, and keyed through the feeds. The logs were scrambled, columns of numbers corrupted, timestamps missing, sections of code replaced with strings of meaningless characters. Her heart kicked harder. Camila appeared in the doorway, boots crunching on the tile, hair pulled back in a loose braid. She carried her mug like a weapon. "You didn't go to bed again," Camila said, voice halfway between concern and exasperation. "Didn't have time," Alex muttered, eyes on the screen. "Something's wrong. Something's always wrong." Camila set her coffee down on the console, then leaned in, warm shoulder brushing Alex's. Alex shook her head, pointing at the corrupted data. "This isn't from us. It's coming from the comms hub." Before Camila could reply, the main screen flashed, "Incoming priority transmission, encrypted." Alex's heart stuttered. She opened it. The seal of the Chilean National Research Council flared across the screen, stark and official. The message was short. Brutally so. Subject, unscheduled seismic and atmospheric event location, Atacama Array Sector action, cease all private experimentation. Secure any recovered material for government collection. Expect inspection team within 72 hours. Camila read it silently, lips pressed tight. Then, softly, "Shit." Alex could barely hear her own breathing. Her pulse seemed too loud. "They know." Klaus called the meeting less than an hour later. The entire core team gathered around the briefing table in the conference room, shoulders tense, eyes flicking uneasily to the projection on the wall. The room felt colder than usual, the air dry and still. Klaus stood at the head of the table, posture razor-sharp, glasses glinting under the cold light. He didn't look angry. He looked satisfied. "This," he said, gesturing to the message behind him, "is what happens when procedure is ignored. You jeopardized this entire operation." Alex straightened in her chair, forcing her hands flat against the table to hide their trembling. "We discovered something unprecedented. We couldn't just wait for permission." Klaus's mouth twitched, a shadow of something close to amusement. Now you will wait. They will take the fragments. Our role is concluded. You can't be serious, Maya blurted, her voice cracking. Klaus turned his gaze on her, cool as glass. I am entirely serious. The silence pressed on Alex like weight. She rose from her chair, her pulse roaring. No. We've barely begun to understand them. If we hand them over now, they disappear. They'll vanish into classified archives, and we'll never see them again. Camila pushed her chair back and stood. And you knew this would happen, didn't you? Klaus said nothing. You told them, Camila pressed, eyes narrowing to slits. You reported us. Maya's chair scraped back with a harsh squeal. You did. Klaus's face remained impassive. I reported a safety breach, as any responsible lead would do. You should thank me. My report likely saved this facility from shutdown. No, Alex said, her voice shaking with fury. You didn't save it. You killed our chance to understand this. Silence. Even the ventilation seemed to pause. Klaus tapped the table once, a quiet, final sound. Prepare the fragments for collection. That is an order. The meeting dissolved into a low, angry buzz. Half the team trailed after Klaus, muttering about careers, safety, funding. Their footsteps clattered down the hall, sharp and decisive, like a door closing. The other half stayed clustered near Alex and Camila, their faces pale, defiant. The lab's bright white light suddenly felt sterile, oppressive, like they were insects trapped under glass. Aiko lingered at the table, her voice so soft it made everyone lean closer. If they take the fragments, we lose them. Forever. Maya's hands clenched on the back of her chair. And we lose the science. Once the government steps in, we'll be erased from our own work. Camila folded her arms. Then we don't let them take them. Alex blinked. What are you saying? We hide them, Camila said, calm as stone. The words hung in the air like an electric charge. That's insane, Maya whispered. It's survival, Camila replied without flinching. Aiko met Alex's gaze. Her eyes were steady. If we don't, all of this will vanish. Like it never happened. Alex's voice came out steady, almost cold. Then we hide them. Later that afternoon, Alex wandered the quiet hallway toward the comms hub. The door was ajar. She paused just outside. Inside, Klaus sat alone, headset on, speaking rapid German into the secure terminal. His posture was sharp, clipped, his voice low and urgent. She strained to catch the words, but they were too quick, too soft. She only understood fragments. Retrieval. Classified. No leaks. When he turned and spotted her, he didn't flinch, just slowly removed the headset. You should not lurk, he said coolly. You're giving them everything, Alex said. Not everything, Klaus replied. Only enough to contain this before it consumes us. His tone was even, but his knuckles were white. That night, Alex's quarters became a war room. A map of the desert lay unrolled across her bed, its corners held down by mugs and notebooks. The air smelled of dry dust and burnt coffee. Camila, Maya, and Aiko crowded around it, their voices low and urgent. Old maintenance vaults here, Camila said, tapping a spot northwest of the base. Abandoned. No active sensors. Completely off the grid. Aiko nodded. Buried in basalt. Good shielding. Secure. Maya chewed her lip. And if they find out? Then we're finished, Alex said. But if we don't do this, we lose the fragments and the truth with them. Camila's eyes locked with hers. Then it settled. We move them at dawn. After the others left, Alex sat alone on the edge of her bed. Her journal lay open on her lap, pages covered in frantic lines, sketches of grooves, theories scribbled in the margins. She wrote, if they take them, we lose the chance to understand. But if they stay here, are we safe? Her pen hovered. Are they safe from us? The room seemed to hum faintly, though she told herself it was the pipes. She closed the journal gently, as though afraid of waking something. The overhead light flickered. She froze. Then the hum rose, a low vibration crawling up from the floor, seeping into her bones. Camila, Maya, and Aiko burst back into the room, eyes wide. The fragment, Camila breathed. They bolted for the lab. The safe rattled faintly, bolts vibrating in their slots. The hum deepened, low and steady, a sound they all felt more than heard. Aiko whispered, "It's responding." To what? Maya breathed. Alex stood motionless, every nerve taut. It knows. The hum rose for 3 long seconds, then cut out abruptly. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. Camila swallowed hard. "Then we do this tomorrow. Before it decides for us." They didn't sleep. By dawn, the desert was cold and pale, the sun a thin coin over the mountains. The courtyard was silent except for the crunch of boots and the low hum of the rover's engine warming. Camila sealed the fragments into a radiation-shielded case and strapped it to the rover. Maya checked power reserves twice, fingers trembling. Aiko scanned the sky for drones, eyes sharp and quick. Alex stood apart, arms wrapped around her journal, eyes on the horizon. The air smelled like iron and old stone. Camila touched her shoulder. "We do this now, or not at all." Alex nodded once. "Now." The rover rumbled across the packed gravel, rolling out into the empty desert. The base grew smaller behind them, the dishes of the array gleaming pale in the early light. They looked like white, blind eyes, watching them leave. No one spoke. Alex sat in the passenger seat, heart hammering, journal clutched to her chest. Behind her, the fragments lay silent in their case. But she could almost feel them humming through the floor, like distant thunder. For the first time, she wasn't sure who she feared more. The government racing to claim their discovery. Or the fragments themselves. This is the end of chapters 1 to 10 of this audiobook, The Atacama Fragments by Rita Weston. To continue to read more of the continued chapters of this book, you can find it available on Amazon and eKindle. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. Please continue to listen more about the author Rita Weston shortly. About the author. Rita Weston is a writer of contemporary and speculative fiction whose stories explore the meeting point between science and the human heart. With a background in engineering and a lifelong fascination with the cosmos, she brings technical precision and lyrical depth to her storytelling. Her debut science fiction novel, The Atacama Fragments, combines the wonder of discovery with the quiet intimacy of human connection, set against the haunting beauty of Chile's Atacama Desert, one of the best places on Earth to listen to the stars. When she's not writing, Rita can often be found visiting observatories, sketching aircraft, or wandering through museums of flight and astronomy. She believes that every unanswered question in the universe is an invitation to imagine, to explore, and to dream.